Sailors, today we're going to introduce you to the broad concepts of the hero's journey.
Before we get started, we're going to make sure that we have our vocabulary down for this lesson. So, using your Cornell Notes strategy, you're going to take down these 4 vocab words. On the left-hand side of your page, you're going to put the vocab word itself, and on the right-hand side of the page, you're going to put the definitions of those vocab words. So, we have exposition, which is the background information for a story, setting, characters, right? We have archetype, which is a common type of person or thing. We have call, which is a prompting to take an action or go somewhere. And we have stage, a part of a journey, a phase of development.
Go ahead and pause the video now and make sure you've recorded all of these terms in your notebook before you continue. All right, welcome back, Sailor. Make sure all that vocab's done.
So today we are going to work on a hero's journey.
The hero's journey is a story archetype, one that recurs often, that we see in a lot of different stories. It uses 12 different steps that you're about to see gone over in a bit more detail. Just know that it shows up in lots of different stories in lots of different ways. Today, we're mainly going to focus on steps 1 through 3 that you can see right here. But before we go any further, we need you to go ahead and create these pages in your notebook.
So, as we've done before, this is going to utilize 2 pages of your notebook. So open it up so we have 2 pages that are blank right next to each other. This line right here, that's the middle of your notebook. That's where it folds and closes, all right? On the left-hand side, there's going to be 6 questions that you're going to have to answer. Read through these, know what they are. That way when they pop up in the video you're going to watch, you're ready for them. Don't write the questions down. We know what they are. We just need 1 through 6. On the right-hand side, you're going to write 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, all the way down to 11 o'clock, just like this, so that when that comes up in the video, and it'll be really obvious when it does, you know what you need to write there.
All right, go ahead and take care of that. Pause the video now and make sure your pages look exactly like this before we continue. All right, welcome back, Sailor. Now for this next step, we're going to need you to pause this video, go back to the Google Classroom assignment for this video, and click the other one that's about 4 minutes long called The Hero's Journey. As you watch that video, make sure you use that notes page we discussed to take all of the notes and answer the questions as you watch the video. Take special care to keep close track of the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, so on positions, because the video will quickly state all of these as you watch. Go ahead, make sure this video is paused. Watch this video now that you can see a picture of here, and return once you're done. All right, welcome back, Sailor. You should have a page full of excellent answers now that you've paid close attention to the video. Let's go more in depth on those first stages, the call to adventure.
So the call to adventure is the first stage of the hero's journey. And one thing you need to know is about the status quo. This is the main character's ordinary life.
So what you're going to do now is in your Reader Writer notebook, you're going to summarize status quo in your own words.
And again, this is just anything that is the main character's ordinary world. What is their day-to-day life before anything special or particularly interesting happens? Pause the video now. All right? Next, we're going to talk about the call to adventure, which is when something happens that the hero absolutely cannot ignore. It forces them outside of their ordinary life to do something a little bit different and often calls them to go on a larger adventure.
Summarize this step in your own words.
All right. Next up, we've got to talk about assistance. Now, assistance is a step when somebody helps the hero to answer the call. And the hero might have a bit of hesitation. They might be too scared to answer that call to adventure at first. Maybe they're too attached to their status quo. They don't want to leave their ordinary world. Or maybe they're just unable to answer the call for some reason. They just think that they can't go on this adventure, but somebody's going to help them do it anyway.
Sometimes this is called a mentor, like somebody who comes along and trains this person in some way.
Go ahead and pause the video now and summarize this step in your own words.
Last, we had the departure. The departure is the hero leaves the ordinary world and crosses over into the special world. This could be a world that is not normal, so it's new to this hero. He may be scared or whatnot, but this is going to describe what more.
Whenever they leave their ordinary life, So the departure is when they cross over from what that status quo was from before, what their day-to-day was. The departure is when they leave into something totally different, and they have answered the call to adventure. Go ahead, pause the video now and summarize this step in your own words. All right, welcome back. And we have a few more concepts we need you to understand before you can start really breaking down these steps in The Outsiders. So first is exposition. And exposition is all of the background information you have in the story about the plot, the setting, and the characters that you need to have for a story to happen. We're going to go in depth on The Outsiders' exposition today by examining some of the following techniques.
So the first technique we want to look at is dialogue, and this is when characters in the story speak out loud. It has quotation marks. These bad boys right here, right? And this is different than when Ponyboy is speaking to you, the reader, and there aren't any of these, okay? That's not dialogue. See this? Need a haircut greaser? The quotations are showing you that this guy, the medium-sized blonde, said this out loud. You got a little cut up, hi Ponyboy. Again, somebody said that to him.
Next is character. The character refers to a person or other being in a narrative. This person or other being can be a fictional, like Spider-Man, or based on a real-life person, like Tupac Shakur.
When we're talking about a character, it's important to understand characterization, which is how we get to know characters in the story. What motivates characters to act in a certain way? What do the characters tell us about themselves? How does the character treat other people, and how is the main character treated by other people? What do we learn about a character through their dialogue and dialect, or in other words, their slang? These are all things that let us get to know who people are and who characters are in a story. We need to pay close attention to all of them.
All right, and the last thing we're going to look at is conflict. So this is problems that a character tries to overcome in a story. So this could be asking yourself, what problems does the main character face in the story? Or are any of the characters' problems a result of their own choices or feelings? If so, the conflict might be internal or inside of them. Are any of the characters' problems a result of things outside of them that they can't control? If so, the conflict could be external or outside of them. A story can have multiple conflicts. It can have some that are internal. It can have some that are external. You can have an external conflict that causes an internal conflict, or vice versa.
So, with all of these tools in our belt now, we need you to copy and complete this graphic organizer about exposition in The Outsiders. So, go ahead and copy exactly the graphic organizer you see here into your notebook.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep, we've talked about this before. The notebook is practice. So pause the video now, copy this graphic organizer, and then we'll give you some further directions about what each step needs to be.
So, under structure and exposition, you have setting, character, and conflict. And under techniques, you have description and dialogue. Remember, refer back to the earlier slides if you need to. But for setting, you want to have the descriptive details. What descriptive details does the author provide? Under setting, you're going to talk about how the author will describe the scene, how the author describes characters, as well as how the author describes the conflict.
If you did that imagery work a few days ago for setting, you should pretty much be able to just take your work from a few pages ago and put it right here, because that imagery work is describing the setting.
Same thing goes for the imagery that we worked on about Ponyboy describing himself or Ponyboy describing his brothers. That can go right there in the character box.
And for conflict, you guys can write what we discussed earlier in the weeks about the stabbing or the, that sounds really bad.
About
Johnny Boy,
get cut, yeah.
Johnny
Or any of the
Boy
events. There's already been quite a bit of conflict. So what description of the conflict do we have? This one should be pretty easy to find. It probably sticks out in your mind. All right, last but not least, we have description and dialogue. Description is just descriptive techniques that tell us about characters, that tell us about the setting, really just great descriptive imagery-heavy language. And then the dialogue is, again, whenever anybody is talking, that you can put here that tells us about those characters. This is your final assignment for the day. Get to work, sailor!